Welcome to Leadership Live with Anton Gunn. It is Wednesday, a special Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth to everybody who's celebrating this amazing holiday that we have in the middle of the week. And I am not celebrating today because I got too much content that I want to share. And what I mean, I'm not celebrating. I am doing a little bit less work today, but I promised that I would bring you content every Wednesday at 9 a.m. East Coast time, 6 a.m. Pacific, to everybody in the Central Time Zone and the Mountain Time Zone. You know it's time to get in where you fit in. And so today I want to continue the conversation that I started last week about our first ever national research study on the state of workplace injustice. Now, last week I hit you with the price tag of $914 billion that is costing employers for the amount of injustice that's happening in the workplace. And so what do I mean that price tag, $914 billion a year? It boils down like this. 66% of employees experienced injustice in the workplace in the last year. This makes them do things that cost employers money. Number one, they decide to quit. Now, how many of you know someone who has quit a job in the last year? Well, 66% of people said that in the last year when they experienced injustice, it made them think about quitting their job, that they thought about walking away because of how they were being treated at work. 23% of people literally experience injustice every single month. Like every month, something happens to them that they deem an injustice. Now, I defined for you what injustice really looks like. It's everything from ostracism to incivility in the workplace. As a matter of fact, I just saw a brand new study from the Society of Human Resource Management that says 66% of people, I don't know what's up with the 66, but their data says 66% of people experience incivility every single day. Incivility. Now, I know some of you might be asking the question, what is incivility? Well, let me explain to you what incivility looks like. It's the incivility of blind copying people's bosses on an email when you're trying to throw them under the bus, or copying everybody in the department on the email that's only just meant for one person. Because all of us can't stand to get extra emails that we don't need to read. But can you imagine working at a place that there's 40 people on the team, and every time somebody sends an email, they want to copy everybody on the team on the email, whether you have anything to do with it or not? And then your inbox get overflowed, and then you can't even get to the real email that you need to get to do the work. So incivility is some aspect of that. Another aspect of that is just physical abuse. They literally people physically abusing people at work. Now, when I say physical abuse, let me give an example of something that I have heard firsthand from an employee about an experience they had at work. And I think I've shared this one before. You had two people who worked at a large hospital system. They had jobs in the maintenance area. Their job was to focus on the medical equipment, the medical devices in the hospital. So anytime anything went down, their job was to fix it. So how they assigned the jobs were the following: that if a department called and said they had a problem, they would each rotate who was up next to go service that equipment, because all of them had the same skill set. Well, there was one gentleman in the department who happened to be the newest employee. He also happened to be an employee of color, that they would always find a way to say that it was his turn to go. And then one day he decided to say, you know what, it's not my turn to go. I just went on the last job and they said, well, this is the same type of equipment. And so since you did the last one, you should do this one. He was like, absolutely not. I'm not about to do that. It's not my turn. It's your turn. So he said this to a coworker. This other coworker happened to be an older, very heavy set man that had a very big stomach. I mean, like a beer belly, if you will. It's almost like his stomach was like way out there. And so when this one employee says, I'm not going to the next job, the employee with the big belly stood up in his face and says, you're going to the next job. Well, you can imagine if somebody has a big stomach, it's pretty hard to get up in somebody's face, which is true. So you know what this gentleman with the big belly was doing? He literally was physically bumping his colleague in the chest and in the stomach with his belly. So he was trying to get up in his face, and when he couldn't get close, he literally was physically hitting him with his stomach, using his stomach as a weapon at work. That is abuse, physical abuse in the workplace, unwarranted, not needed. So those are just some of the examples of workplace injustice. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because these injustices, these things that happen in the workplace are the hidden killers of employee engagement. Now, when I say employee engagement, you can read whatever study you want to read. You can read our study, you can read Gallup, you can read any research from SHRM, you can ask any CEO or leader the importance of employee engagement. See, employee engagement has a direct correlation to the bottom line of your business. If your employees are engaged, they're more productive, they're more attentive, they're more alert, they're more invested, and they also don't quit. Because when employees are engaged at work, they tend to want to keep working at a place where they feel valued, where they feel respected, where they feel included, and they feel visible. So we know that employee engagement matters. It matters high above almost all other things in the workplace that we talk about incessantly, having employees to be engaged at work. And what does that mean? So there's an economic impact, there's a social impact, there's a culture impact. You think about your customers. Like, think about if you're in a customer-driven business and your employees are engaged, they're going to take care of those customers at a better rate and a better position than they would if they didn't care. If your employees are engaged, then they're going to stay there longer, and they build relationships with those repeated customers. So they look forward to those customers come in. I know there's some businesses, particularly restaurants, that I would go to so frequently, and the employees were so engaged at work that they wouldn't quit their job. When I would come in, the reason why I would keep coming back, because I didn't need to order my food. They already knew what I wanted. Mr. Gunn, are you having this today? They would literally, I would pull up in the parking lot and they would see me come in. And before I even got through the door, they were already writing down my order. This is a place where the employees were massively engaged, which made me more engaged as a customer, which made me give them more of my money more often and enjoy the experience every time that I'm there. So we know the value of employee engagement. It's clear as day, the value of employee engagement. But today I want to talk about what happens when you don't engage those employees. What does that mean and what does that do? A lack of employee engagement has a huge economic impact. In the State of Workplace Injustice report that we published last week demonstrates that when employees disengage because of injustice, there is a $777 billion annual impact to employers. They're losing $777 billion because employees are disengaging at work. Now, what does disengagement look like? It means they check out, quiet quit, start looking for another job. It means that they just outright leave because they got options. Like, young people in particular, this Gen Z generation, they would say, I'd rather drive Uber and do DoorDash than work at a place that I'm not valued or respected. And they don't have no qualms about quitting a job. They'll quit in 2 minutes. They'll quit Chick-fil-A. And I literally was talking to an operations manager at Chick-fil-A a couple years ago. He said he would hire somebody on a Monday. They would go through training and they would show up to their first day of work. And then they would come back for the second day. And after that, they would just quit. Now, it's got to be pretty bad when we know Chick-fil-A pays well. They treat their employees with dignity and respect. They treat their customers with dignity and respect. It's bad when a young employee will quit a place in 2 days. So if you think a young employee would do that, particularly in Gen Z, what about someone who really does have options? They got degrees. They got background and expertise. They have the ability to work remotely from home if they go work from somewhere else. I mean, like, you got to understand that this engagement thing is going to cost you significantly. So what I want to do today is I want to unpack for you the 4 biggest themes that we uncovered in the State of Workplace Injustice Report. And if you stick around, I'll give you a way in order for you to get the report. You can read it yourself. You can dig into the data and the numbers and see exactly what I'm talking about. The 4 hidden killers of employee engagement are in the Workplace Injustice Report. So I want to unpack these very quickly in the next few minutes. So the first one is going to be easy and obvious when I say this. The number one killer of employee engagement is disrespect in the workplace. Disrespect. Now, I know that sounds obvious, but I want you to think about it. Why are we so disrespectful to people at work? Why are we so disrespectful in general? You know, I was just talking to a reporter yesterday. I did a television hit about the Workplace Injustice Report, and we started a conversation around disrespect and what does disrespect look like in the workplace. Well, I'm going to give you some examples of what managers, leaders, coworkers, everybody might be doing that sends a signal of disrespect that leads to killing the employee engagement. Number one, condescending remarks or behavior, like looking down on people, talking down on people, saying negative things about a person, snide remarks. Those things are disrespectful at work. But we know they happen every day. We see them happen every day. And some people have tolerance. Other people have zero tolerance for disrespect in the workplace. Another example of disrespect is constantly interrupting people in meetings, that they can't get a sentence out of their mouth without you interrupting, without you giving an answer before they even get a chance to ask the question. That is disrespectful. Another thing that we know happens at work are insensitive jokes. Now, when I say insensitive jokes, I'm literally talking about, making jokes about people's accent, making jokes about where they went to school, making jokes about all kinds of other things that can be very demeaning, demoralizing, and disrespectful. Now, humor in the workplace is something that we all need and we should enjoy, but there is a line between being humorous and being funny, self-deprecating, and what does that mean? Make jokes about yourself, okay? Maybe I went to public school, so I don't understand the math on this, equation, Bob. You can always make a joke about yourself, but when you start to make jokes about other people, that's a problem. So you got to understand that insensitive jokes are not something that you want to be doing at the workplace. So that's the first aspect of in disengagement in employees, or the hidden killers of employee engagement, is disrespect in the workplace. So I want you to write that down and know that disrespect is something that shouldn't be tolerated at work because it is leading to injustice in the workplace. Now, the second aspect of injustice in the workplace is for all of you leaders out there who manage and lead teams and supervise teams, and that is mistreatment by supervisors. That's right, you heard me. Supervisor mistreatment is a big driver and a big theme of disengagement and injustice in the workplace. So you want to think about it like this. When someone comes to work for you and you're their supervisor, they look up to you whether you believe it or not. You got the title, you got the responsibility, and you might even make the big bucks to be deemed as a leader in your organization. So when they look up to you, there's a level of expectation that my leader is going to treat me with dignity and respect. They're going to value me, they're going to include me, and they're going to appreciate who I am. But what we are starting to see over and over and over again is that some of the biggest culprits of disrespect and mistreatment in the workplace are supervisors. Now, why are they like this? Is because they're not being provided the appropriate level of leadership training in the workplace. People are being promoted from frontline positions into management roles with the quickness, but those people are not ready for prime time. They're not ready to lead like they need to be leading. They're not ready to have the impact as a leader. So they're making mistakes like inappropriately assigning more work to one person than the other. That can seem unfair. That can feel like mistreatment. They can be overly harsh or critical in day-to-day management. They can micromanage and beat up on an employee because something didn't get done while they lay off on another employee. Or I've seen this one happen repeatedly. When it comes time to do an evaluation, they just make up extra criteria that ain't in the evaluation to give some employees a bad evaluation without giving them a good one. Or a third example is that let's say they don't make up criteria on evaluation, but they just give you a 3 rather than a 5, even though you're the top performer in the department. That level of mistreatment by supervisors is a massive driver of employee engagement, because people say, well, why should I invest my time and my effort when nothing that I do looks good to my supervisor? That he's always going to be extra harsh, or she's always going to be extra punishing on my evaluation. So why should I even try? That encourages people to disengage. Now, the third aspect, or killer, if you will, the third killer of employee engagement is ostracism. Now, I mentioned this a few seconds ago of what ostracism looks like. It really is creating a clique or an in-group at work and leaving people out of that group. Let me give you some examples, and then I'm going to give you a story about an experience that a woman in leadership told me was happening to her in her workplace. So the example of a clique or a group is, let's say you have 6 people who are supposed to work on a project together at work. And you, as the leader, told all 6 people that you all need to work together to get this project done, and your deadline is 30 days from now. And you assign a team lead on the project. Let's say his name is Bob. So you assign Bob to be the team lead on the project. But Bob doesn't like Julie at all. He's never liked Julie. He feels like Julie got more cachet in the company than he does. And so he wants to take her down a few pegs. So when you assign Bob as a team lead, and he starts sending out emails to schedule meetings on how the team is going to get together to work on this project, he intentionally leaves Julie off the emails. So she doesn't get the notification and she misses the meeting. Well, after a few repeated missed meetings, she's now falling behind on her part of the project. Now, the other team members are thinking Julie is too busy to come to our meetings, so they now don't like her. Now, you all are probably having PTSD because I'm explaining to you a circumstance that you've either been through or at least happened to you in graduate school, where you were on a group project and one of those group members never showed up, and you felt some kind of way that they were getting the same grade as you were going to get, but they didn't do any of the work. But the question is, did they just not contribute, or were they being iced out and isolated? Well, in this story that I'm telling you, that Bob was isolating Julie, created a clique. Then Bob decides, hey, instead of us just meeting over the weekend, let's get together at my house on my deck and we can work outside. My wife will fix us a grand meal and we can all have a good time and work on this project and finish it off so we can get all of next week to just kind of chill out at work. So he invites everybody on the team but Julie. So Julie doesn't know about it and doesn't get the invitation. So how do you think that's going to make Julie feel? How do you think she's going to respond? Well, our research shows that Julie is either going to quit, she's going to disengage, or she's going to commit counterproductive workplace behaviors, start to sabotage the whole team because they kept her out. Now, who is she going to blame for this? She ain't just going to blame Bob. She's going to blame the other 4 members of the team who chose not to alert her of what was going down. So this stuff is rampant in multiple places, that level of ostracism in the workplace. Now, here's a real example of this. I was talking to a director at a healthcare organization who would do a monthly luncheon for all of the managers on his team. He would bring all of the managers together. So he would literally ask the managers where they wanted to go and eat. What did they want to do for lunch? And they would all offer their opinion. And one of those managers says, well, I'm vegetarian. Can we go somewhere else other than a barbecue joint? Well, the director of the department really liked barbecue. And so he literally would schedule the lunches at a barbecue joint all the time. They would always go to a barbecue joint where pork was a centerpiece of the menu. And this one employee not only did not eat pork, but was also Jewish, of a different faith. And so it was really just a no-go for her to be sitting in this spot where there's nothing on the menu for her really to eat that didn't have pork in it. The collard greens had pork. The baked beans had pork. You know, they barely had a little chicken. But again, she's vegetarian and doesn't eat chicken. So what is she just going to eat? A salad. So she stopped coming. And when she stopped coming, the colleagues on the team thought that she wasn't a team player. The director started to think less of her because she never shows up to the lunches. This is ostracism, ladies and gentlemen. And that is a hidden killer of employee engagement. It will reduce the performance of those team members if they feel ostracized. Now, here's the fourth one, and I'm going to review all of these with you. But the fourth one is the one that we know happens in the workplace, and that is discrimination. That we know discrimination is illegal, it is against the law, and it shouldn't be done in the workplace. But we also know that it happens often in the workplace. I mean, literally, it doesn't take but 2 minutes to Google a news story about employees filing a discrimination suit against their employer. The latest one that I saw this week was the African-American employees at General Mills Foods were filing a lawsuit citing discrimination. I remember reading a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now, the African-American employees at Tesla, at a Tesla plant owned by Elon Musk, filed a lawsuit for discrimination. Now, I'm not at all surprised that anybody that works for Elon Musk would end up filing a discrimination lawsuit because he's been in the news enough for how he treats people in his comments about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So most of us know what discrimination looks like and know what it feels like. But when people experience it, they don't always file a claim. They don't always report it. They don't always file a lawsuit. They don't do those things, but they know what it feels like to be passed over for a promotion and can only deduce that the reason why they didn't get the promotion is because of their gender, their race, their ethnicity, or how they show up to work physically. So we know discrimination is real. And those are the 4 biggest themes that show up in the workplace, State of Workplace Injustice report. So if you want to get a copy of the report, I want you to go to www.workplaceinjusticereport.com and get yourself a copy. Check out this rich data set, qualitative data, as well as quantitative data around what's happening to employees in the workplace. And so for all of you who have been posting about it and sharing this, I want to say thank you because it's starting to reach people in all corners of the globe. I mean, literally, I saw a post last week from a French HR executive talking about the data and statistics inside the State of Workplace Injustice report. And that was being shared with HR leaders all across the planet. And I'm talking, from Asia to Africa, to South America, Brazil. I mean, it was all across the board. Now, our data is US focused and US based, but people all across the world know that injustice is a problem in the workplace and that the experiences that people are having are detrimental. And I'm telling you about the 4 killers of employee engagement. These are hidden killers. And I'll repeat them as I close. Number one, it is disrespect. Number two is supervisor mistreatment. Number three is ostracism in the workplace. And number four, it's outright discrimination. So I encourage you to get a copy of the State of the Workplace Injustice Report at State of Workplace Injustice Report. And I'm giving you the wrong address. Let me give you the right address. The address is very simply workplaceinjusticereport.com. The name of the report is The State of Workplace Injustice. I encourage you to get a copy, check it out. You can find a link in the description of this, or you can find it in the comments. I want to make sure that you get it. I want to make sure you read it and get some value out of it. So I want to thank you for watching. Everybody have a fantastic day. And remember, let's build better workplaces. Let's make sure that our leaders know how to respond to injustice. And most importantly, we prevent it happening in your organization. Take care.